But we always say this thing about healing, right? It's never really a stage you fully get to because different situations will come and trigger different things. It really is a process.
In our rush to find a spouse and in our rush to get over the talking stage and all that kind of stuff, you don't know what kind of crazy you're dealing with.
The sexual revolution is mad because now we've gone from not knowing anything about sex and not being educated or even allowed to have conversations on it to literally there's some holes in this house. What? Right? And I love that for us.
We cannot pick and choose the parts of our chosen partner that we want to deal with.
Yes.
You can't pick and choose.
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Renee, and we are your online sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
We are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's episode, we have a bit of a continuation from the conversation of last week.
Yes.
Where we'll be talking about love is blind.
Yeah.
Is love really blind or is it blurry? But also we'll be having an opportunity to really, again, dig deep into online relationships and the reality behind reality TV shows.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Let's go into it.
Let's get into it. But classic as ever.
Yeah.
TMS. In fact,
before we even
get into that, girls, damn, child, rewind. You didn't hear this part of the podcast. Hey, sisters.
Hello.
We're writing a book.
We are writing a book. We are about to be published authors. We have signed a book deal with Pan Macmillan, who is a publisher, to release our first book, because there'll be many. One thing we can do is talk.
Multiple.
Yes, we are so excited to announce. We announced it last week, but officially on the podcast, on the TMS, where we really bond, on the podcast. This is the official announcement. We are writing our debut book, To My Sisters, A Guide to Sisterhood.
Yes. And we are so excited. Like, honestly, we have been waiting for this moment.
Yeah.
We honestly didn't think it would come this soon in our journey, funnily enough. It had always been on our kind of like trajectory because we'd always wanted to write something to our sisters. But we're really looking forward into delving deep into our own sisterhood, our own relationship, but also creating something that's practical, usable for the sisters across the ages, and be looking out for some tidbits from some other sisters too, because this book is, as much as we talk about ourselves quite a lot on this podcast, we have always been huge proponents of the fact that you need to have sisters from all walks of life. So we're looking forward to embracing those stories, sharing those stories, as well as bringing you guys a definitive guide on how to be a better sister. Not just finding sisters, but being one. Like you said, I think you guys know we're ambitious people. We are very competent people too. We both desire to write something or do something big, but never would we have imagined that literally a year and a half into starting the podcast that we would be, actually it was 6 months into starting the podcast that we were approached. It's new to y'all.
It's new to you.
It's new to y'all. It's old to us.
old news. That's 2021 news to us.
You know what I'm saying?
But no. Who would have thought that 6 months into starting a podcast and just sharing our friendship and continuing to share our friendship and talk about matters that were on our heart, that we would actually be approached to write a book, and that less than a year later, we would have signed a book deal.
Crazy.
Thank you. Just thank you so much for listening, because girl, you can't go to publisher and be like, I have an idea. They want to see numbers, they want to see community, they want to see people. And if it wasn't for you being plugged in and sharing and continuing to support us, the events, the vision conferences, the books, all of that, the digital resources rather, we wouldn't have been able to do this, it would have just stayed an idea. So it really does take a village to raise a book, I guess. So thank you.
Thank you. And we thank you in advance because when the pre-order link, honey, when it drops, we need all of the sisters to roll out and ride out for us. So just so that in advance.
It's a good couple months. So save up your coins to buy one for you and a good sis. But we're going to give you the pre-order link in a few months, actually. We're still in the process of writing the book. So pray for us. Please do. And just send us all the love and just thank you. I'm actually quite still overwhelmed by the idea of getting to write a book. with you, just for them. Like it just, yeah, it's a lot, but I'm glad. I'm grateful.
It's beautiful, man. We're gonna leave the speeches and the teardrops and all that kind of stuff to the book launch.
New York Times bestseller.
Oh goodness,
then we'll give the mushy stuff.
Honestly, and you guys need to get ready to bring yourselves out and shake a leg, because one thing, listen, that launch has to be huge. Yes. I need to see all the sisters come out for that one. But yeah, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It means so much to us, and we do not take it lightly that this is something that we are going to do for you. As much as this is a great opportunity for us, we're really seeing this as an opportunity to really help all of the people within our community actually be good sisters, become better women, and become better friends outside of the romantic relationships, outside of the whole femininity spiel. This is all about you. This is all about building communities, and this is all about becoming a better human being. So we're really excited to bring that to you, sisters, and thank you for making this a possibility.
From the bottom of our hearts.
From the bottom of our hearts to the tip of our toes.
From here to here.
From here to here. From my whole existence. But we're going to try to stop being, super, super gushy.
Yes.
And yeah, please do stay tuned on socials. The social media girls have found out first.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're plugged in. Make sure that you continue to share TMS with a sister. In fact, before you get stuck into this podcast, what are you doing if you haven't shared the last episode with a sister? Please get to it.
Yes.
Because we have so much more that we want to bring to you, and so much more that we want to do with TMS that really requires as many sisters as possible.
Yeah.
Without further ado, before we get into the thick of it, I think that's a song, isn't it?
Into the thick of it.
There we go. Classic style of TMS. We've got a ding, ding, ding.
Dilemma.
Let's get into it. To my sisters.
Hey.
I have a...
Wow, that's a first.
I know.
That's a first. Ooh, somebody is a smart... You got A's in school. She said, I got a pun for you if there ever was one.
Oh, she said, entendre.
Entendre.
I have a dilemma from the US.
Sure.
Love the pod. Thank you for creating this space. It's so needed. I have been managing my family business for almost 10 years out of obligation and duty to my family. We've been through a lot together. Though through it all, I've gained skills and relationships that I wouldn't have otherwise. However, I hate it here. Working with my family is toxic and I am exhausted. Earlier this year, I was experiencing burn again. My anxiety was at an all-time high. I was severely depressed, but wasn't afforded any grace simply because we have a business to run. And my family simply doesn't believe in mental illnesses. I have decided it's time to choose me and step away from the family business. I'm taking an adult gap year in the hopes of figuring out what exactly I want to do with my life. I've discussed this with my family and I was met with discontent, especially from my mother. I wanted to leave on a good note. Am I wrong for leaving? Am I being selfish, or is this just a radical decision I need to take to live a life I want? For context, I am the oldest daughter and just turned 30.
This is a radical decision that you need to make because your life really is your own to live. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be nice. And I think if there definitely should be love between you and your mother, you and your family, there will be room for forgiveness. I think sometimes it can be very challenging because, like you said, it's a family business and they may be thinking, you're probably very skilled. They probably just want to keep it exactly that way, a family business. And so for you to say, I'm leaving the family business may sound to them like I'm leaving the family or I'm leaving you basically to your own devices and I don't want any part in it. But I think there's a way to let people know, listen, my heart is actually not in this. And in order for me to be effective, my heart would actually need to be in this. I'm happy to help you hand over. I'm happy to help you figure out a way to replace me, a way to operate without me. I'm happy to stick around as long as that takes to help you figure it out, whether it be 6 months, a year, whatever that transition period will look like, and however long it needs. But I can't stay here for the long term. It's better actually for our family dynamic for me to leave so that I don't grow resentment towards you, not because I don't appreciate the opportunity and sometimes the privilege that exists around getting to work with your family, getting to build something that will stay in your family for a long time and is kind of a legacy piece for your household. But it's not that I don't appreciate that privilege. It's just that this isn't for me. You know, I have to go out and try something else for me. And not every parent is going to be happy with that decision. But you are grown. You are a grown woman. And it comes a time where grown women have to make grown decisions and move the hell on.
Cue Beyonce. I'm a grown woman.
I can do whatever I want. I'm a grown woman. You should do. Wow, did somebody say pentatonics in the house?
Absolutely.
Pentatonics. She's a beatboxer.
I love them.
They're fantastic.
Oh,
They're fantastic.
man.
But yeah, like you are a grown woman. Literally, you are grown, and grown women make grown decisions and have to deal with grown up consequences. If they don't want to, your mother will come to understand, and if she doesn't, irreconcilable differences. It might have to be a Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, Happy Easter, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Ramadan. Bye.
It's not irreconcilable. No, I think I really do hear it. I think matters of the family are so difficult and they can be so hard to like navigate.
Yeah.
And I think what's worked in, you know, our good sister's favor is she's been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's a good 10 years of your life that you've given, precisely. And if it's something that you don't like doing, if there's one thing that I've learned in life thus far is it does not profit you to stay in something that you really do not enjoy doing or does not actually tally up to your end game or does not help you in some way. And sis, you're still really young, but at the same time, you're a grown woman. Yeah. Like you're nearly 30. Yeah. Like sis, it's time to really like, this is the time to be taking the most risks that you possibly can in your life. And the thing about a family business is, I'm going to assume that hopefully you have siblings or hopefully that you have, you know, family around you that will be able.
Family members in the business.
And I love what you were saying about being proactive in, you know, finding a replacement and finding a way that this can work for like multiple parties. But I do think that it's better for you to craft out your own life to live than live a life that is not yours. Because at the moment it doesn't sound like yours. It doesn't feel like yours. It feels like a pipeline dream that's been articulated by your family to you. And how many of us suffer the same thing where we've got, you know, our family members who have this ideal or have created this, you know, pipeline dream that they expect us to fulfill, only for us to, you know, be chasing these dreams and wondering why we feel so empty. It's because we're chasing something that we never created in the first place. Good. So I do think that it's worth, you know, sitting down, having the conversations, but understanding that, you know, this might actually be an irreconcilable difference that you have with your family. Yeah. And it may take some time for your family to overcome this. But at this, you know, life is so short, man.
Life is too short to live someone else's dream.
It really
short. Is. And I love that you said that. I think especially being the eldest daughter, that sense of duty, that sense of responsibility, as well as unfortunately maybe an unfair amount of expectation that is placed on you. We can definitely relate. An unfair expectation that is placed on you by your parents or by your family members. And at some point, go and listen to our eldest daughter syndrome episode, but at some point you have to put the yoke down because you're not meant to be wearing it, right? You're not meant to be that heavy burdened by other people's expectations and their demands of you, especially when it is without considering your actual desires, right? So they may be thinking this is what's best for you, and they may actually have your best in mind, but they aren't considering what you desire. And that's a big thing, having to ask somebody to lay aside what they think is best for you and actually listen to what you want. Because sometimes there's a difference, right? Sometimes there's a difference between what you think is good for me and what I actually want. Sometimes our parents don't want to hear about what we actually want. They just want to give us what they perceive to be the best. And so don't demonize your parents or villainize them, but it is about, if there is not going to be a mutual understanding here, we have a clear difference. And because I am grown and because I cannot live my life for you, I have to go down my own path. Because you won't have anyone to, I mean, I'm always the morbid one, but your parents are going to die one day. And hopefully they die before you, right? When they're gone and they've taken their hopes, their dreams and their expectations to the grave, what does that leave you with? A whole bunch of disappointment, a whole bunch of regret, and a whole bunch of wishing you could have stood up for yourself at the time when you had the chance, even though that chance was uncomfortable, right? Another issue is, I wrote this in a recent Instagram post, but a lot of us, I love what you were, Renee is a radical, is very, is a great ambassador for radical honesty. Just being honest. This is how I actually feel. This is actually what I think. And I think a lot of us don't want to be honest because of fear. A lot of us are scared that if I'm honest about how I truly feel, like this dilemma has illustrated, I'm going to lose the people I love. People are going to disagree with me. I'm going to look selfish, etc., etc. However, when you decide to let fear stop you from being honest, you've allowed fear to now rule your life, because that's the only thing that's going to take its place. You have to be honest, right? And you don't want to be living your life from this place of fear, this place of regret, this place of not even knowing if your parents can, or your family rather, can withstand the storm of you going down your own path and still love you. That is a big fear a lot of us have, if being not disowned, because I think that's quite an extreme one, but being, cast away. Okay, we don't really care about you anymore because you're not doing what we want you to do. That's a big fear some people may have, being the outcast. However, are you going to let that is that fear worth the exchange, right? Is the staying in this position worth the exchange of a very beautiful future that you could actually make for yourself for the rest of your life? Like Renee said, you're young, like you're really young. You can still carve out the life that you actually want. So you have to ask yourself, is this worth that exchange? Because that's what you're giving up, right? Is the approval of your parents, this is a hard way to put it, but is the approval of your parents worth the sacrifice of the future you actually want?
Ooh, that's heavy.
Question mark.
Question mark. Well, sis, it's one of those ones where we don't necessarily have an answer that is palatable. And I think that's one of the beauties, but also the burdens that come as part of the human experience, whereby you have to make decisions and you have to do things for yourself that will definitely have very serious repercussions on the way that you conduct yourself, to conduct your life and engage with other people. But it's always better to be honest. In the long run, it's always better. Always better. Because you save yourself being bitter. Who knows, if you end up having kids one day, or end up having a family of your own, a lot of, resentment and a lot of things that we project start now. Yeah. So it's better to deal with it now. Try and choose the life that you want to live. Yeah. For the sake of not just this generation and not for yourself, but potentially for the future and for those around you. Because, when you're stuck in a decision or stuck doing something you don't like, just everything about your life sucks. You don't like being around anyone. You're actually not, do you know what I mean? You're actually just a grey cloud.
You just have this grey cloud looming over you all the time, and you take it into every interaction, which is why it's really important for you to sit down and realize what would bring some sunshine into your life. Could you also, if it is a thing of, okay, I get to, because you don't have to having conversations with your parents can actually be very hard, like very, very hard. And it's one of those things I actually understand. I know this whole year we've been saying we're doing the hard things. It's one of those hard things that if you don't do it, we're not going to judge you. We're not going to judge you. Because that is so hard.
That one is a hard
navigating. That's a hard navigating those kind of decisions. So then the flip side, or the adjacent to it, is, could you turn working into your in your family business into something beautiful that actually aligns with your desires, right? Yeah. Is it that you don't like the family business because of the way the business is being run? Is the business not exciting to you? Is the position you're in not exciting to you? If that's the case, maybe it's just about positioning yourself differently within the same thing, right? They may have made you the boss of a store. I don't know what the business is, but they may have made you a boss of a store. You don't want to do managerial things. You want to do marketing things. You want to do creating things. Okay, tell them, I want to move to advertising. That's where I want to be. That could be a way to kind of help you, because if you don't want to have that conversation, sis, like I said, we ain't going to judge you. It's tough. If your mom now comes and slaps you, are we bearing the slap? I'm sorry, sis. We can't force you.
I mean, we'll be there to pick up the pieces and, I was going to say call Childline, but that's a whole conversation for a different day. She's grown though. Yeah, exactly. That's a scrap. Anyway, you have to call the police. You just have to call the police. Moving on, sis. We send you love, wisdom, light, and hopefully other people around you in real life that you can, lean on. Like, I hope you have a good group of friends that you can actually confide in and talk to about these kind of issues, as well as us. And family members, actually. And family members too. So send in lots and lots of love. But speaking on the topic of love.
Ooh, what great transition.
Do you know what?
Love is blind. Pew, pew, pew.
Part 2.
Because what you did to me last week, you ain't gonna do to me this week.
That's right. Listen, sisters in your prayers, still be covering our equipment, be covering like just in general this entire enterprise, because we need to level up. As we're glowing, you guys know we've been glowing and growing for a while now, but the glow and grow that we're trying to aim for right now, we've got a lot of enemies, and it's taken the form of our technology. Thank you for your patience for last week's episodes, and we apologize for technical difficulties as per usual. And also I want to apologize in advance for any technical difficulties. I want to reiterate, it is just us two that are currently manning the ship. We are working on, team, all that, all that stuff, all that pretty stuff.
That actually is another thing. Shout out to everyone who has sent in applications to be an intern.
Yes.
I don't know what you're. I guess you guys took the serious call to action seriously when I said if you want to help, then send help. But thank you. Wow.
Honestly, thank you.
Our inboxes have actually been flooded with CVs and applications and just people shooting their shot. And sis, I encourage you, continue to shoot your shot, not just at us, but wherever, like in whatever area of life, because as much as we are pleasantly surprised, it now gives us an avenue to build something which allows you to come and take your place.
Precisely.
In it. And sometimes you just got to shoot your shot in the dark, and hopefully it lands where you need to be, and it makes room for you where you need to be, right? Like that was very inspiring when I saw it. I said, wow, not the sisters being go-getters.
Coming
Let me go
through.
get my ass up and shoot my shot.
That's right. I was like, I need to be in the DMs of other people.
Facts.
But yeah, we definitely appreciate it, and we are currently working on mapping out the infrastructure to support other sisters and other team members, because Lord knows we really do want a team, but we want to make sure that we do it right and we do it in a way that actually makes sense, and a way insofar as the sisters that do come on board feel supported and feel as though they are part of the team, the real team. So thank you, and thank you for your enduring patience, and we will continue to need that grace. So keep extending, keep supporting, we'll get there. Love is blind.
Love is blurry.
Love is indeed blurry. It's opaque.
Is it a bit translucent?
Saturated?
I hear it.
Overexposed?
Wow, get into it.
Wow, it is. Is it too bright?
Is it too dim?
Because some folks be dim.
Dark. Love is dark.
All right. Where did we even get up to?
So we got to the point where we were talking. We needed to talk about Jarrett and Ayana.
Oh yes, second fiddle.
And the thing is, we recorded the rest of that conversation. That conversation was good. It's just the audio was too crappy to put out and put our names on it. So Ayana and Jarrett, did people settle? Nick and Danielle, my namesake.
Scary town.
Everything about that situation, it wasn't even a talking point. They were the talking point. And also we got into a conversation about whether reality TV is making marriage less serious. So let's start with Jarrett and Ayana. When it comes down to, we've both agreed that people settle in relationships.
For sure.
But what do you think actually makes people... firstly, do you think, Jarrett, in terms of to review the show, Love is Blind on Netflix, do you think that Jarrett settled for Ayana? Was she his second choice? Well, she was, but...
I think...
Do you get...
Initially, yes.
He settled?
Yes.
Okay.
In the sense of, not necessarily... It's not to say he settled because Ayana wasn't the best choice. But she was the second choice. I don't think we can argue with that. Because if she was the first choice,
he would have proposed.
I think they called the kettle black. I don't know why we call it the kettle black, by the way.
Also, it's giving her a bit of racism.
Racism, just a little bit of, just an ounce. But if we are going to call a spade, you watched it, I watched it, viewers watched it. He chose, what's her name?
Mallory.
I was going to call her Marlon.
I was going to call her Marjorie. Damn.
Well, that's you see where... And it's funny because she was the first choice and now ain't nobody know her. Anyways. He picked Mallory first because to him, Mallory was his first choice.
Yeah.
Ayana was not. And as much as, they have grown together as a couple and he has, they've grown,
they're married now.
They're married. They've chosen to be together. I think we cannot deny the fact is she was his initial second choice.
Yeah.
She may have grown to become his number one.
Yeah.
but she was initially his second choice. And I think it is definitely a microcosm of what happens in the dating world. I was having a conversation with a couple of my friends, my male friends, funnily enough, and we were talking about, you know, like marriage and how, like, you know, this whole idea or notion that men peak later than women because they acquire more money, whereas women peak earlier because their value is predicated on their, you know, youthfulness and being pretty and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting because the men were talking about the fact that many of their friends had experienced this thing whereby, you know, a girl has come along, but they're not ready to settle down. And she has the qualities of everything that they want. She's beautiful. She's funny. She's smart. She's literally like blows everyone out the, you know, the water. But because they're not ready to settle down, they let that one go, or they hope that she'll wait for when they're ready to settle down. Fast forward maybe 5-10 years, they're now in their 30s, they want to settle down, time is ticking. But the babe that they really wanted, she was like, well, I gotta go. I can't be waiting for you I'm peaking early. So then they settle, the word they used was settle, they settle for whoever fit the bill in that present moment. Now, it's not to say that she wasn't pretty or she wasn't smart or she wasn't whatever, but had they the opportunity to get a do-over, they probably would have picked the other girl. Whether Jarrett would have picked Mallory again, or, you know, we can sit in our, like, what would have happened and our you know, counter history and whatnot. The fact of the matter is, there was a first choice that wasn't Ayana. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot of men there who aren't able to get their first choice when they want their first choice. They then have to settle, or rather choose, their alternative options due to the circumstances that have presented themselves. The question then becomes, can you, as a woman, continue with that knowledge, being in a relationship with a man, knowing that you are not necessarily his first choice?
And this is actually where I wanted to move the conversation to, because I think it's for decenter the whole romantic relationship thing, I think there's a bigger conversation about self-esteem and confidence in knowing that you might not be somebody's ideal. Right? Or you wouldn't have been their first pick. And I think that does a huge number on a lot of people's self-esteem when they realize you actually have an idea of perfection. You actually have an idea of what you consider to be the most desirable. And unfortunately, it wasn't me, right? What does that do to your self-esteem? Now, as somebody who has been cheated on in the past, I can assure you that the idea of being, whether they are with you now or not, the idea of somebody picking someone over you will do a huge number on your confidence as a woman, as a person, right? Ayana, you was a better woman than most to actually walk down the aisle with that man. Because genuinely, the idea that it's not about, firstly, one of the biggest things that then creeps in is comparison. And measuring yourself up against the person who would have been the first pick or was the alternative, right? What is it that she has that I don't have? And as women, we are put in that position a lot when it comes to like most things in society. All the time. Comparing ourselves to other women, whether it be beauty campaigns, people in our workplace, the people who are put on pedestals. We are constantly thinking about, even look at femininity content. Like, it's very much so about how do you compare to this ideal, and this feeling of, well, am I as I am actually enough, right? Or can I actually over time convince you that I am enough? And then you get into this horrible trope of having to basically convince somebody that you're good enough whilst trying to maintain that you are actually confident. Do you get what I mean? I think that can be that duplicity can be hard. I'm trying to believe that I am enough, but I'm still having to prove to you that I am enough whilst having to still love you perfectly. That's hard.
It is really hard, man.
That is hard. That is tough. I think a lot of work has to be done on the other party to assure you that you can actually be secure in that relationship. But I don't know, it could just be me, but I think it takes a while for that insecurity to actually be healed within that relationship.
Maybe it's just me, but I agree insofar as I don't like the idea of playing second fiddle to anybody.
At all. No one does, I don't think.
And I think it's quite interesting because settling is very normalized for women.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, it's not a weird thing to see a woman with a man. And this sounds so bad. I was trying to find a PC way of putting it, but I couldn't. It's normal to see a gorgeous woman or see like a woman who's doing amazing stuff with a man who would probably be seen as below her standard or out of her league, or perhaps in some way just not fitting the bill.
Okay.
It's normal. But there's so much discourse around when a man settles.
Yeah.
And I just think that in of itself is interesting insofar as, why do we permit men the privilege of being able to not only, you know, actually choose their first choice? Because in a lot of those like cases that we were speaking about earlier, it's the man actually deferring, not being committed to his first choice.
Right.
Rather than it being he's been rejected by his first choice.
Right.
Although obviously it's different in Jarrett and Ayana's choice insofar as Mallory actually rejected him.
Yeah.
But in like real life, in a lot of situations, because, you know, and I hate to generalize, but in a lot of cases, we've seen men who actively don't go or don't pursue their first choice, or who would become their first choice, because they have the luxury of choice and they have the luxury and privilege of waiting, because they feel as though they have more time to basically play the game a bit. Whereas for women, it's normal for you to settle.
Yeah.
Isn't that so strange and so problematic?
Yeah, but I it's one of those, what do you expect? I think...
Do men not feel like...
No, because women feel pressure. I think
nuts.
they feel a different kind of pressure to what men feel. Right? Oh, I don't want to get into this conversation about the whole women and men and the dating thing.
Yeah.
But I do think it really does surround the whole, like, a key element of what you said is time. Like the fear of time. Men are afforded more time. You can evolve. And also I think men are afforded, like you said, the privilege to have their options open at the same time, but also to say women are, it's something we talked about I think a few episodes back, but like I think women, because of the way society trains us to think, we are preparing ourselves for marriage all the time, often. So you have more options. I think women's, I wouldn't say settling, but their compromise has to come from the fact that you have to wait for a man to be ready. I don't think the majority of the options women have are men who are ready. I think they're just men who are evolving.
That's an excellent point.
Do you get what I mean?
That's an excellent point.
It's more of a thing of, well, once I do find one of the few men who are ready, then I'm just
snatch one.
Do you get what I mean? And so, yes, I can compromise. I can put, you know, how they're always telling you, know, he might not be 6 foot, 6 figures, 6 whatever. You got to let one go, because once you find the guy, like at least a good enough guy, you should latch onto him, because you don't know when another one will come. Oh, however, I think a lot of men don't have that same fear, because yes, you might have lost the love of your life, but do you have the same fear that another good woman won't come? You might not be as in love with her as you were your first love, right? Or the one that got away.
Yeah.
But you know, she's pretty much everything that you need. And so she ticks all the boxes.
Yeah. Sad.
That's what I'd say on that kind of front, to be fair. But in terms of them two, I actually think they're very cute.
I think so. Do you know what? I wish he had picked her first.
Yeah, I actually prefer Ayana. I don't know what he was doing.
Didn't quite understand. To be honest, there's a lot of things that I just didn't quite understand. That was one couple I would not have understood, and I still don't understand Sal and Mallory. But that's
that
okay.
one I would never understand how you a man playing the flipping ukulele with primary school rhymes
Mallory,
can make you cry so many times.
You're so beautiful.
And why is it such a... The ukulele itself is not a nice sounding instrument. Ting, ting. Oh, it's not nice.
What? Can you imagine coming home one day? Imagine,
a hard day of work, Renee.
Your man has put rose petals and you're thinking, this is going good. Yeah, you're smelling the sweet scent of candles. Picture this, guys. Close your eyes with me. Hard day of work. Your feet are like, you want to take off your shoes and just, off everything. Take off your bra. There's rose petals coming out. Yeah. You're smelling the sweet fragrance, and all of a sudden, ding, 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 ding.
And then these nursery school rhymes.
Mallory.
Outrageous.
I would go back to work.
I
would have to go back to work. I would have to. The ukulele.
I just thought it was so cringe. It's just not for me. It was very cringe. It was, and I
smile.
you can serenade. Oh Jesus! You can serenade me to wow. Oh Lord, no, thank you. I don't want it. If that's what you have for me,
take it back.
I would like a 30-day return.
Take it back. Where's the delivery driver?
Because it's a bit too much. Now, I love a good serenade. I love me a man who can sing. I really do. But the ukulele, put that instrument down. Give me an acapella.
Do you know what I mean? There's certain instruments. To be honest,
it's like him playing a recorder. No, this is not to shame anybody.
No, because there's people out there that are listening.
Yeah, do you get what I mean?
I play the recorder.
This is not to shame anyone. You go on with your bad self.
You go and
you're out of order. You're out of order. Then you go and
you go ahead with your best self, just not around here.
It's just a little bit ick. Just certain instruments are just a little bit ick.
The triangle.
Oh, I'll never forget. That was my first. That was my first instrument in my primary school choir. Yeah, because I had braces.
But that's the thing. That's why you would be playing. That's an appropriate context.
Yeah, because I was.
You can't be in your early 30s out here playing the triangle for me when I step in.
Ting.
Nah, man.
She has arrived. Ting. She's home.
She ain't
ting,
here.
ting, ting.
She ain't here. She ain't stepped through over there, London. But
okay.
Yeah, no,
Whip it on over though. But me personally, Nick and Danielle's conversation is not a long conversation to have.
It's not, no.
Apart from Danielle needs better help.
Yeah, she BetterHelp.com
exactly
/ to my sisters.
She actually needs to start her therapy journey with 10%
serious.
off because it's too much projection.
But you know, it also started with her mum. I was actually reading an article earlier on. You know, the comment that her mum said about, Danielle finds it really hard to trust people. Yeah. And I do in part find that that's a problem that I have.
Yeah.
So this is a generational crazy, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Like, I get it. Growing up and seeing certain things, seeing a failed marriage, seeing probably, I think she herself said she was in quite dysfunctional and toxic relationships in the past. Yeah. And then having a difficult relationship with your own self-love and self-acceptance in the sense that she had insecurities from her weight and her personal journey. It's not, I think there's a fine balance between you have to be healed before you get into a relationship and also being too fractured to get into a relationship. And the reason why I say that is it distorts the way you relate to other people. I think as soon as your behavior starts affecting the relationships that you have too greatly, in the sense that you're acting actually very erratic. Yeah, you're acting and also you're making the other person unhappy. Often
and uncomfortable. That's when you need to step back and be like, maybe a relationship isn't for me because I don't want to bring somebody else into this situation which I'm struggling to control for myself. Now, that's not to say you need to be perfect before you get into a relationship, but I do think there is some work that needs to be done. And I think she had done the work. I actually think she believed that she was ready to get into a relationship because even in the pods, you could see she's having these vulnerable and transparent conversations. But we always say this thing about healing, right? It's never really a stage you fully get to because different situations will come and trigger different things. It really is a process. And so I think what we saw was somebody who believed that they were healed get into a situation which they may not have been in before, right? Love is Blind is a very unique situation to be in, but she may not have dated seriously before. And now you're in this and now it's reaching a new depth of insecurity that you didn't realize was actually still hurting and still open. I think that's what we saw with her. I think it was more of I'm still kind of hurting. I'm still kind of sore. Yeah. And now I'm letting that hurt fester and I'm also letting it infect you. I think that's what we saw with Nick and Danielle. And yet the man still said, I do. And good on you, sir. That's a lot to work with. I think that man was even going through his own things, but because Danielle's issues were so grandiose, Nick was getting away with looking like he is the normal one.
Yeah, it's true. Also, Nick's family, big question mark
very
there.
Shady. Very
especially his mum. Big question marks for me.
To be honest, the entire enterprise was just shady.
anyway, maybe I am an African child.
Yeah, I mean,
how can your parents be talking about sex to you and your partner at the dinner table?
And that's
in terms of Danielle's one, that's the first time I'm so sorry. I am an African child. I am an African
That's not dinner
child.
time. That's not even. That's just right before marriage. So let me talk to you.
You see that scene in Bridgerton when the oh, you haven't watched this anyway, sorry. Anyway, for my Bridgerton watchers, you know that scene in season 1, don't care. You see that scene in season 1 where Daphne asked her mum about the whole like honeymoon phase with what your husband and you are gonna. Yeah. And then the mum is like, do you remember we used to have 2 hounds on our last and then they had babies. That's how Africans talk about sex.
Yeah.
Even that, they're very explicit. Have you noticed it's one of the 2 extremes?
Do you know what I mean? Oh, do you know what? Even in in Bridgerton, mind you, when Mr. Duke was out here, so in the evening, Daphne, when you
how did you do that so good? How do you do that so well? How do you do that so well?
Back when I was
Daphne.
Yeah, that's how he says it.
Yeah,
Daphne. So
that man is so fine.
Do that thing.
When you touch, you can.
What do you mean?
When you touch yourself,
you can touch yourself, right? I said, God.
But you know what? It's actually so mad, like how, and I actually prefer it this way because I was talking about it with another friend, and they were saying how like the sexual revolution is mad because now we've gone from not knowing anything about sex and not being educated or even allowed to have conversations on it to literally there's some holes in this house. Whack. Right? And I love that for us because I think there is power in just having knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have scapegoated this idea that if you know, then you become deviant immediately. But actually, as we saw in Bridgerton, which is why I think Bridgerton is actually a cultural masterpiece, I'm exaggerating, right? I really love it, is when you don't know, it's easy to be deceived and to be fooled. And a lot of boundaries are actually crossed because you don't know where the boundaries should actually be. And so, yeah, that's a tangential point.
No, I thought that was really, really interesting. And I think related to that tangential point, kind of in a big picture roundabout kind of way, is what I find actually interesting about Nick and Danielle's relationship is I think their relationship in the pod versus post-pod is such, like, there's so much you could say in terms of like commentary on like our conceptions of like relationships nowadays. The first one to me that was really stark is the fact that just the desire to like find a partner can be such a big blinker and blinder as to, understanding the wholeness behind and the entirety of a human being. It actually takes time. And I think sometimes especially as women, obviously, society has, society has definitely like played a part in this, but in our rush to find a spouse and in our rush to get over the talking stage and all that kind of stuff, you don't know what kind of crazy you're dealing with. And it will be very specific situations and experiences with that person that will allow you to understand, who am I dealing with? I think so many of us are like too confident in our capacity to assess somebody at first glance that we forget that it's the experiences that are unraveled over time that allow us to unravel who they really are.
To truly know a person.
So even someone like Danielle and Nick, their love story was great in the pods. It was like, wow, Danielle had overcome so many insecurities and Nick was this dashing, he had not really quite connected with the right person, and he was only for us to find out that Nick was running away from marriage for how long, God knows how long, and Danielle is going she going through it.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
And then it also makes me think about like when we think about it on social media as well, right, where we see people's love stories, and then many of us are always like, I'm so surprised that this person broke up or this person is divorced.
You don't know the real story. You don't actually have the full picture. You really don't.
They be going
100%. It's like when you think about like making a home, right? me and you just like we moved into together a few months ago. I've known you for a very long time, nearly a decade of life. But when you actually came with all your baggage, like the real life, when you came with all your baggage, it's like, bro, okay, I got to make your baggage fit with my baggage and make a nice home. Do you get what I mean? And that's what relationships really is. Like, I've seen you, but outside of the context of true intimacy, I don't actually know the fullness of what you come with. And now I am seeing the fullness of what you come with because we are in closer proximity. I've got to think, can I make it work? Can I accommodate for, and can I make room for actually, and learn to enjoy the things that you come with, or learn to work with the things that you come with? That's what relationships are. But a lot of us, and I think this is the issue and the trap sometimes, the trap that Nick and Danielle fell into, because they were both trying to fulfill a fairy tale of, we've seen broken relationships before. We don't want that to be us. So we want to form the perfect marriage. I think they had an ideal and they had a fairy tale, and they were looking for the person who would say that they would fit into it. But the reality of making that picture come to life takes a lot of work, 100%. Right? A lot of work. Like wanting to be the curse breaker, the generational curse breaker, and we're not going to get divorced. And that's going to come with challenges, because those people didn't get divorced by accident, you know? And it's what the mum said, right? Like, if I could have made it work, we would have made it work, but it didn't work. It doesn't mean I'm not good at marriage. It means this was a big challenge, you know? And it's something we talked on last week, which unfortunately wasn't in the episode, but was a really good element to the conversation, which was, marriage is damn tough. And before you come into the comments, talk about, well, y'all ain't married, you don't know. So would you want us to sit on here unmarried and say marriage is easy? Shut up. We're talking straight facts. Marriage is actually really tough. Like, having seen the behind the scenes of failed marriages, successful marriages, you actually start to realize that TV makes marriage look easy or glamorous. Even the drama looks glamorous, but actually marriage in its beauty is fabulous. I think way more fabulous than media can ever make it look. Marriage also in its darkest times is actually far more worse than media could ever make it look. It is actually life-shattering.
Life-shattering.
Or life-making, literally.
We cannot pick and choose the parts of our chosen partner that we want to deal with.
Yes.
You can't pick and choose. I think that's also something that is really, really important, because people often assume that the person that they're going to get with has to be perfect or has to be, working on themselves or has to be fully healed and all of that kind of stuff. This is not to say that, you should now be allowing damaged people to enter your life and whatnot. But understand that whilst it is important to have standards, it's important to have expectations, and it's important to facilitate growth in other people, you will never find somebody that is a fully healed package. You will never. And let me tell you why. Because you are not
a fully healed package. You're really not. And that kind of goes down to your parents, your friends, your sisters, your significant other, your work friends, your colleagues, the people who you do business with. You will never get a full healed package. You're dealing with a story. And the thing about stories is they have ups, downs. They are dynamic.
They also got villains, and sometimes the villain is you. They have demons too. Yeah. You got some demons that you're still dealing with. In fact, there are certain there are certain demons that exist on the inside of you that will only be triggered when your partner enters into your life.
Exactly.
Are you ready to do, like, many of us just want to be healed already, but we don't realize that this is like a constant negotiation. You have to make sure that you're fencing.
Yeah. And it comes with constant testing, right? You may be healed in a moment. Like, you can actually be healed, but you won't know the truth of that healing until it is tested, and it will continue to be tested over time, right? Healing is something that is proved by testing. Genuinely, you can sit here and say, I'm healed, I'm healed, I'm healed. But if you've never been in a situation that has tested you, provoked you, triggered you, how would you know? Precisely. How would they know? So you actually have to be in a situation that, and relationships do that, friendships do that to you. They poke at the bear. Do you get what I mean? Like, when you give people proximity to you, when you bring them into that inner circle and you bring them close in whatever form of relationship it may be, they have access to start prodding at you and start being themselves. And unfortunately, them being themselves may trigger who you actually truly are. That is when you really know who you are as a person and who you still are as a person and how far you may be from who you truly want to be. But that's okay.
You know what that was making me think of? You know, when you stub your toe.
I've actually changed a lot as a person, you know. I stubbed my toe twice, yeah. So when we were in Dubai, I'm whipping around the corner of our bedroom just to go to the bathroom, and I hit my toe so hard. I don't even know if I screamed or anything.
To be fair, that bathroom, yeah, where it was in fact, the entire makeup of our room was just...
I was sleeping on Renee. How can they give us a twin room? They gave us a twin room, yeah? These people cut a double bed in half and pushed it 2 inches apart and said,
it's one of them ones where you're lying here. If I turn like this,
you're on my bed.
I'm actually on Courtney's bed.
We should have just got a damn double room. Literally, me and Renee are sleeping face to face.
It was really romance. It was really...
We were sleeping face to face, but
morning,
yeah, literally, and the thing is, one side of me, Renee is 2 fingers away. Other side of me is the window. Like, I'm literally squashed, right? But I'm whipping around the corner between my bed to go to the bathroom and the wall, and I hit my like super hard. Oh, everything in me wanted to creep out that day. I was so upset, but I just kept on with my day. I was so proud.
Testing, I'm telling you.
Testing.
It's testing. It's the same way that, you know, you can say, oh, you know, I'm not sick, I'm healed and stuff, but you can't run. You can't run.
Dear God.
Your heart is doing...
Yeah, you can keep saying it in faith. You can still keep saying it in hope. You can even keep saying it in delusion.
Oh.
But in reality... And really and truly, the only way you'll actually know whether you're healed or not is if other people can co-sign it.
Yeah, that's true. That is so, so true.
Because you may think, I'm fine. But other people around you will be able to perceive the manifestations of your continued pain.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're on the receiving end of it.
And please let it be healthy people. Because when you be in a room full of sick people...
100%. Everybody all they can see is sickness. Okay, firstly. But yeah, I think reality TV has made, and this is something, last week I was listening to Will Smith's book, which is why I completely understand why he's like
I was going to say.
No, I do not co-sign it. If you listen to Will Smith's book, you will understand why he slept that man. But anyway.
Keep
my wife's name out of your mouth. I said, okay, Willard.
No, Mike.
And the thing is, the Oscars are bad, Mike, because they made sure they kept. I know someone was standing there with a boom mic. Yeah. And they said, this is good TV. We ain't had a moment like, because who knew the Oscars was coming on? They said, we ain't had a moment like this since, I don't know.
But this man socked him.
Oh,
he
even got momentum and said,
do you know how rude that is?
But anyway, this is not what that is. I was listening to Will Smith's book on Audible. I actually highly recommend, if you want to read the book, to actually listen to the book, because Will Smith is the one who reads it. However, he also performs. So there are songs, there are musical interludes. I think it's just an overall amazing experience to listen to his audiobook. So it's self-titled. It's called Will. And he talks about his first wife, his first marriage, and how his marriage ended. Obviously, it ended in divorce. And he was talking about how he had an extreme frustration because to him, it seemed like, why would we vow to do something if we always knew we could just leave? If we knew we could just give up? Why are we giving up? But at the same time, it's a dysfunctional marriage. And he then goes on to say, when he then got into his second marriage with Jada Pinkett Smith, or Jada Pinkett at the time, she used to say that she didn't want a marriage ceremony because she felt like the marriage ceremony was actually not, it wasn't demonstrative of what truly should be tested for people who are going to get into a marriage, which is your endurance, right? She said, if you're going to have a wedding ceremony and you truly want people to come and celebrate you, what you should have is people come to watch you to run a marathon. And whoever gives up, or if you give up, you shouldn't be allowed to marry. Because it should really be there to test your commitment level, your ability to endure. It's not about how fast you finish. It's just about finishing. And I think unfortunately, because of reality TV and the way that marriage can sometimes be portrayed and how relationships can be portrayed, I think the severity of the commitment of marriage has been lost, right? And how serious it should be taken, how seriously, sorry, it should be taken. I think that has been lost, and I think that marriage has been trivialized, and it's something that people do, I don't know, just to do it, you know? And, you know, that could just be the pessimist in me. But I do miss the time when people didn't rush into marriage too tough, you know. But at the same time, you could argue that during, you know, back days, courtships were very short. People rushed into marriage all the time. But I think because they had an understanding of what marriage truly entailed, the covenant aspect, the promise aspect, they were just able to last the test of time better. And I get frustrated sometimes when people center the conversation around failing marriages around gender and gender roles and how well they are being fulfilled, and not around people's genuine commitment to commitment. Whether people have a good understanding of commitment and the severity of it, and what it truly takes to love another person in friendship, in relationship, in business, in the world, in community. What does it actually take to love? That's not easy. And I think a lot of us have framed love around what can I get, rather than I actually have to give. And I actually have to, and to love is to give and to sacrifice. And that's why, you know, we have to do all of these conversations around healing, because a lot of us have had love robbed from us, rather than us having the option to give it. We've had it robbed from us. And we've had people take advantage of us and stuff like that. But I think the conversation around marriage is not around whether women are fulfilling their gender roles, whether men are, you know, masculine enough or high value enough, or whether women are feminine enough and high value enough or chaste enough. It's really about a generation that has commitment issues. Cut the camera. Not talking to anybody. If we wanted to cut the camera, I gotta press a button right here.
I'm doing it in faith. Yeah. Thank you very much. In my delusion, cut the camera. No, but I definitely agree. This generation has commitment issues. Yeah. And I think it's also commitment issues to the whole picture, right? Yeah, because many of us can commit to the short term, or commit to very, very small things, or commit to, you know, the first taste. But do you actually have capacity for the full meal is really the question. Are you going to quit halfway? Are you going to ingest everything? The good, the bad, the ugly? Because the ugly is going to come. Yeah. And I think many of us don't have the capacity to deal with the ugly. There are many times when I think of, like, you know, Love is Blind and, you know, even 30 Day Fiance and all of these reality TV shows. They're reality TV shows, but they're not really showing the reality behind the reality, which is things are going to be crap sometimes.
Tough.
I think they should. Did you ever watch a show called Fear Factor?
When they ate the insects.
Yeah. Now that was reality TV. That was real. Because I'll be damned if someone has me eating spiders.
That's the reality.
Because that was
Fear Factor. I'm sure they have many lawsuits against
them,
because some of the things they made people do.
That was quite disgusting.
Fear Factor was disgusting. I know that.
I was afraid of it.
Their waivers were long. That and Takeshi's Castle. They said you were test subjects. You were not people.
Can you sign here? Why is the font so small?
You don't need to read on it.
You don't need to do that. Just sign here. That is reality TV show for me, because it's like, this is your actual visceral reaction to something that actually scares you. And you've understood the repercussions of, if I'm eating this spider, I'm committed to eating this spider. Whereas with something like Love is Blind, and I think that's part of the problem of the premise of the show, we think of Love is Blind purely in physical and material terms of our bodies. But we never think of Love is Blind in the sense of, is this person presenting me the fullness of who they are and what this relationship could be outside this very, very isolated incident of relationship that we share. So yes, I do think that Love is Blind, but not in the material, like obviously you can't see who you're speaking to, but in the very intangible, emotional, and just holistic, can I see who I am speaking to? Yeah.
And also Love is Blind in the sense that you also, once that little veil goes up and you see the reveal of who you propose to, love it. Okay, you're no longer blind to who they look like, but you are you are no longer blind to what they look like, but you are still blind to the situations that will come.
Yeah.
And most of us go into all of us go into relationships blind because we don't know the future.
You're right. What a wonderful place to end that conversation. What a wonderful place to end that conversation.
Yeah.
Sisters, we hope you have enjoyed, our little debrief on the Love is Blind and reality TV show. Let us know if you actually enjoyed this and if this is something that we should do more often.
Yeah.
Because we know that there's a lot of interesting things that are out on the television show streets. There's even a new one coming up, Shah. I think I forwarded it to you ages ago, but I can't remember what it was about.
I can't remember.
Yeah, another. Oh, I remember. You come in with the person that you've proposed to and been in a relationship with.
Oh, yes,
and you have to move in with somebody else.
The ultimatum.
Yeah.
Girl, there's another one coming. Anyway, Chad, this is not a reality TV show review podcast, but if you want something like that, maybe we could do a little off
We can
show.
do a little extra.
A little extra.
We can do a little extra. A little
because we need to get back into
extra.
Stop that. That should actually be we need to get someone on the ukulele to do the intro for us. But we're going to get back into the glowing and growing, stuff next week, the sisterhood stuff.
The real stuff, the meat and the bones.
But this was a really good way to just evaluate where everyone stands right now on their perceptions of relationships. So
for sure.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion.
For sure. And sisters, of course, if you want to support us online, support us. You can check us out on Instagram at To My Sisterhood, and in fact on all social medias at To My Sisterhood, TikTok, Twitter, and of course come and say hi to us individually. If you haven't noticed, our lovely lady on the left of myself right here has got a YouTube channel. Courtney Danielle her.
Cause I be yelling.
Cause she be yelling. At CD Barteng, and of course come and say hi to me over on my socials at Renee Kapuku.
We love to see it, and of course, sisters, we want you to stay plugged into everything, and so make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you are following the podcast on all streaming platforms, and definitely share this with a sister so that she never misses a part of the sisterhood, so that she's not being left out. Okay, of course we want you to make sure that you signed up to the mailing list, because you get exclusives to things. You also get a weekly newsletter from us letting you know what we're reading, what we're loving, and what we think will help benefit you during your week. Okay, and sisters, we just hope that you have an absolutely amazing week. We are about to go off to a meeting to talk to the girls who are coming to Tanzania with us.
Girl party.
So yeah, and we're about to do that, so hey to all of you. But yes, sis, we hope that you have an amazing week. As we have said already, we thank you, we love you, and have a great rest of your day. Okay, keep glowing and growing. Ciao.